From comic book heroes you haven't even heard of yet to almost quitting Marvel Comics altogether. Stay tuned to number 1 to find out the 10 most amazing things about Stan Lee. Number 10. Making superheroes in his 90s. If you're not familiar with the name Stan Lee, he is the father of many of today's Marvel comic book heroes. He recently passed away on November 12, 2018, which is considered a great loss to his many fans. But what's incredible is that this superhero powerhouse was still making characters well into his 90s. Stan Lee's life and legacy will very much be defined by the characters he made, and there are a legion of those characters. Even though he had gotten out of the comic writing business in the 1990s, he was still making characters with his daughter in his 90s. According to his daughter, he had been working with her on making one last superhero for the Marvel Universe. We had been working on a character called Dirt Man. He's the last little angel that we've got tucked away. Apparently, the idea of Dirt Man came from his daughter's desire to get down and dirty with a character instead of being somewhat cliché and having all the still and other parts that make many superheroes what they are. Just the notion that Stan Lee was still creating characters so late into his life shows the passion that he had for this industry and the love that he had for writing. He didn't have to do it, but he did. And whenever Dirt Man is revealed to the Marvel Universe, he'll likely be honored for being the last creation of Stan Lee. Number 9. He wanted to be a novelist. Surprised? It's true. When Stan Lee was young, he didn't even want to do comics. He wanted to write novels, be a playwright, and more. In fact, he went on and did all kinds of unique jobs on his path of writing that would eventually lead him to being a part of Timely Comics, which was the predecessor of today's Marvel Comics. Lee wrote obituaries, press releases, and even training films for the Army. His first big break in comics came from him getting the chance to write a 2-page Captain America comic. When times got dark for Stan, he lamented not writing that great American novel, but he eventually worked his way out of that funk. Number 8. The Stan Lee Rule. Before we talk about the Stan Lee Rule, take a moment to like this video and join the Zero to Hero community by subscribing. Those buttons are right below, so use your superpowers and click them. To say that Stan Lee wrote a lot of characters is a bit of an understatement, but he did favor some over some of the others. One you might not expect, though, is the Silver Surfer. In fact, Lee wasn't the creator of the character, Jack Kirby was. Stan brought him in for the Galactus arc in Fantastic Four. But Lee really loved the character and got the approval from the Marvel heads to write the origin for him. Then, after it was clear how much he loved the Silver Surfer, Marvel made it so that only Stan Lee could write him in series format, which he did for some time. If you wanted to use Silver Surfer in your stories, you had to get approval from Lee. Eventually, though, his involvement would be reeled back by Lee himself, and many other writers have gone on to write Silver Surfer. Number 7. Stan Lee and the Teen Titans. Stan Lee is known in the modern era for his numerous cameos in Marvel films, and yet, in 2018, he did something that he had never done before. He cameoed in a DC Comics film, specifically, Teen Titans Go to the Movies. This was not advertised, and when it hit the screens, fans went nuts. No one expected this at all. According to the team, though, it almost didn't work because something happened while they recorded. A statement from them was, "It was awesome, dude. We got to go to Stan's office, and Aaron voice directed him. He was just up for everything," co-director Peter Ritter-Michael told Entertainment Weekly. Co-director Aaron Horvath added, "He was very nice and very welcoming and super patient with us. Our audio engineer, his equipment broke, and I've never seen a person's face turn so red or get so sweaty so fast. He was trying to fix the board and he couldn't fix it. So we ended up having to record Stan on like a laptop. Our engineer was just so ashamed of himself. But did Stan Lee mind? Nah, he just laughed it off and did whatever he needed to finish the cameo audio, proving once again that Stan is most definitely the man." Number 6. The Comics Code got Excelsiored. While it may appear that comics have always been around and never been messed with, that would be a lie. For during the 1950s, a stigma had been born that comics were influencing young kids and teenagers to do violent acts. And so the Comics Code Authority was born and set a strict guideline for how comics should be written in terms of content. Some of it was fair, others restrictive. Sure enough, in 1971, Stan Lee had an idea for a side story in Amazing Spider-Man where Spidey would save a young teen from a drug overdose. But the Comics Code wouldn't allow that. Stan was adamant though, and he got his publisher's approval to do the story, so he did. Not that he was trying to mess with people, he actually understood the system. In his own words, "I could understand them. They were like lawyers, people who take things literally and technically. The code mentioned that you mustn't mention drugs, and according to their rules, they were right. So I didn't even get mad at them. I said, screw it, and just took the code seal off for those 3 issues. Then went back to the code again. I never thought about the code when I was writing a story because basically I never wanted to do anything that was to my mind too violent or too sexy. I was aware that young people were reading these books, and had there not been a code, I don't think that I would have done the stories any differently." This story led to the Comics Code being seen as nothing more than a label and not needed to actually make comics. So, slowly but surely, Marvel and DC Comics and other publishers started to make comics like they used to, without the Comics Code. And now, you don't see it in comics today. Number 5. Created the first black character with a power. Easily one of the biggest and most important movies of 2018 is the Black Panther film. For, though he had appeared in Captain America: Civil War, this was his first solo movie, and was the first black-led film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Would you like to guess who created him? Yep, it was Stan Lee. And it was bigger than you might think. You see, at the time, though there were black characters in comics, none of them had powers. Think about that. So Stan Lee and others came together to create Black Panther and debuted him in the Fantastic Four. But more than just being a powered character, he was a king, a powerful one that ruled over an entire nation in Africa. This set a powerful trend for what characters of all races could be in comics, and that decision has changed the world for the better. Number 4. The Marvel Method. I want you to think about how comics are done nowadays. Not in terms of characters, but storylines. Most comic books have long-reaching arcs, some of which stretch out for years. Well, in the early days of comics, this didn't happen. Not until Stan Lee and Jack Kirby came up with the Marvel Method. It was a way for the writer to create a story that could last issues, instead of having to come up with multiple stories for multiple issues. This was further added upon via the artist having more creative power in how the story was told. This led to what are now known as multi-part stories, which would become the basis of how the modern era of comics would work. For after that, you could do long storylines that had more depth, more character development, and more action. And this has actually helped create a name for many characters. And it also saved Marvel Comics a few times. Number 3. His wife was very important to his career. One of the coolest things about Stan Lee may not be that he made an army of comic characters, that he did an infinite amount of cameos in films and whatnot. It's actually that he was married to one woman in his life, and she was just amazing as he was. And it was because of her that many things happened, including the creation of the Fantastic Four. Lee met Joan Bucock in an accidental way, but the moment he laid eyes on her, he knew that she was the one for him. And after 2 weeks of dating, she agreed. In fact, she went and got annulled from a previous marriage, and then an hour later, got married to Stan Lee. What a woman! Stan noted many times how much Joan helped inspire things in his comics, including many times with the Fantastic Four. But it also went beyond that. She would be there for him when things went wrong, or to encourage him to try something new. Ironically, she was a voice actress and got to portray characters in the Fantastic Four and Spider-Man animated series. Number 2. Lee almost quit Marvel multiple times. You might think that Stan Lee was destined to be in Marvel forever, but that's not the case at all. For despite his early successes and helping Marvel Comics truly get off the ground, Lee hated how restrictive the comic industry was. Remember, back in the early days, comics were seen as little more than fun stories to read and then never think of again. It was Lee that helped make it all happen in a way that would change the world. But there were many times that he almost quit Marvel for one reason or another. This dislike almost got him to not make one of his most legendary groups, the Fantastic Four. For you see, he wanted to make a team book that didn't just have random heroes together. He wanted to make one that was a family. But not just a family that was relatable, believable, and one that would act in a way that would make other people go, yeah, that's my family. He wanted to make the book, but he knew that Marvel wouldn't go for it. But his wife Joan pushed him to do it, so Fantastic Four got pitched, got made, and became Marvel's best comic in a year. While Stan Lee did almost quit many times before his retirement in the 1990s, few times came as close as that one. Number 1. Spider-Man was denied at first. When you think about the greatest heroes in the Marvel Universe, the name Spider-Man no doubt comes up in the first few selections you say, if not the first. After all, Spider-Man was, and is, one of the most famous superheroes in the world today. He's had numerous live-action movies, cartoons, video games, and of course, thousands of comics made about him, his allies, his enemies, and everything in between. Heck, the Venom movie just passed $800 million at the box office, and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is coming out soon. But what might surprise you is that at first, Stan Lee was denied the right to make Spider-Man a character. Oh yeah, his publisher wasn't having it. Why? Well, there were 2 reasons. One, apparently the publisher didn't think that people would like the idea of a hero being modeled off of a spider, because people hate spiders and bugs for the most part. Second, as Stan had him, Peter Parker was a teenager, not a rugged and good-looking adult male like Captain America or Tony Stark. But Lee knew that this could be a character that could be great and would connect with teen readers in a way that other heroes couldn't do. So he insisted that they try it, and when they did, via the Amazing Fantasy comic, it was a hit. The comic became a massive bestseller, and Spider-Man soon got his own series. And the rest, as they say, is history. What's your favorite Stan Lee moment? Let us know in the comments below, and take care.